Alright, so the next thing we have to look at is the how to add matrix row and column names. Right, how do we add matrix row and column names? So to do this, we are going to make use of the column names and the row names function. So assuming we want to start with column names, so let's say set column names. So how do we do this? We use the column names function, column names, right? So we already have the matrix created, right? So matrix created. So I want to give a name to it. Let's say want it to be character, so column 1, right? Column 2, and the next one is column 3, right? If you look at it's 3 by 3. There's no column, there's no name at the column, there's no name here at the row. So by using this function, we are going to create some names at the column, right? So let's run this, and now let's type the function and the matrix and run. So now we have added columns to this matrix, right? We can do the same for the matrix n by using a different approach. So yeah, I'm going to use the matrix n matrix that we just created in our previous tutorial, right? So we have that. We want to add some names, but we want to use a different approach. So yeah, we're using the paste function, right, with the O attached or the 0 attached to it. So with this, I'm just going to give the name of the function, let's say column col, that the name that I want to use, then the number of columns, so from 1 to the number of columns of the matrix n, right? So once I run this, we should be good to go. Let me run. So the matrix n. So with this function, I've also created some columns to the matrix, right? So how do we do similar thing for the rows? So let's say set row names. So let me copy this. It's just going to be similar. Paste. So I'm just going to change this to row names, and just change this to row 1, row 2, row 3, right? So once I run this, let me run the two together. So now rows have been attached to the matrix that was previously there was no rows name, but now we have added some names to the rows, right? And we can do the same for the other matrix by making use of this function, paste 0 function. So I'm just going to change this to row names, then change the column to row, ro. So number of rows, right? So should be good to go. So I'm gonna run this too. So that's actually added their names right to it. So this is basically how to add matrix row and column names in R, right? Now before we proceed, let's look at how we can also maybe want to remove the row names, right? How to remove column and row names. So assuming I want to remove the column or the row names, I'm going to use just going to apply this column names, for instance, then I'm going to use null. All right, so this is basically going to remove the column names, right? So if you specify we don't see the names at the column anymore. You can do the same for the rows. Paste, so row names now. So let's use for the next the other matrix, and as you may want to remove the row names for this matrix, so I'm going to use row names now and just specify run this. So we don't see the names at the rows anymore. So this is basically how we can actually add or remove some row name and column names for some matrices in R.